Welcome back to another episode of Seams and Downs. I'm Doc Metter, and right here with us we have none other than the Bartlett High School football coach, Coach Ben Bowden. Coach, thanks for agreeing to do this. Much appreciative.
Absolutely. I appreciate you calling me and inviting me to do this. I'm excited about it, just to help, kind of spotlight our program. I'm always excited to do that.
Outstanding. So you're a hometown fellow, aren't you?
Yes,
Born and
sir.
raised right here in Bartlett.
I grew up in Bartlett, went to Bartlett, played football at Bartlett, graduated in 1999, or as my players like to say, Coach, you graduated in the 1900s? Like, you never felt as old as when somebody calls it the 1900s. But been around Bartlett my whole life. I actually started my coaching career out at Arlington. I kind of was at a spot where I didn't really know what I was going to do. After college, I was working in restaurants, and I actually owned my own restaurant in Arlington, a little small barbecue place. And while I did that, the head coach out there was Chris Wiley, and who's a Bartlett guy. Grew up about 3 streets back there. It's kind of about the time that Arlington was opening up, and they were starting a middle school program. So he called me and said, "Hey, why don't you try coaching? Come on out." And I absolutely loved it. And I think about, I don't know, I probably did it for 4 or 5 years. I'm trying to think, sorry. 7. I think it was 7. And I decided one day, I said, I can't do this restaurant stuff anymore. That was work. This is fun. So I just sold the restaurant, and one of the principals here at the time, he's still here, but it was a good friend of mine, a guy from Bartlett. He was a couple years older than me in high school, played ball. He said, "I'll get you on here," and I came on as an assistant coach, and I was doing the ISS class until I could get a teaching job. So,
Wow.
so that happened it was the first year of Bartlett City Schools. So as soon as he offered it to me, because my first thought was, I want to do this full time. So I was going to talk to Arlington. And when they announced that Bartlett was getting their own school system, and at the same time, he called and said he could get me over here, I think everybody wants that challenge. Hey, I get to go home and go back to where you're from and try to build something there. Because at that time, 2014, Bartlett was not very good. And
Gotcha.
we were pretty low down the totem pole in 6A football. And the whole time I was growing up, through the 80s, through the 90s, I mean, Bartlett was always a contender, going to the quarterfinals, always in the playoffs. But I can remember watching some of the early 90s teams when I was a kid, and you could have introduced me to NFL players, and I wouldn't have been impressed as I was meeting these like Bartlett guys. They were awesome. So just having the opportunity to come back, I was excited. And the first year I was a DB coach. After that, we didn't have a freshman team. Our freshmen were kind of dummy holders for the varsity guys. And so I made the comment one day at the coaches meeting. I said, "We got to get a freshman staff. These guys are coming up a year behind.
Yeah.
Just because they're not getting reps, they're not getting really practice." And the coach at the time said, "You want to do it?" And I said, "Absolutely, I'll do it. Let me have 2 coaches." So I took 2 of the newer guys, Kevin Wilkes, who's still my running back coach, and just kind of like my right-hand man that is, there's nobody in the world I trust more. He'll tell me when I'm being dumb. He'll tell me when I'm making good decisions. So he came with me, and he called the defense. I called the offense, and then we had a younger line coach, John Croft, who was at Bartlett a couple years before I got here, and he just left last year to go out to coach at Lakeland. But so we did it for 4 years, and those first 4 years that we were doing it, we went from no freshman team to having a freshman team, and I think we went 27-5 over 4 years. So I was like, I can do this, and not just me. I was like, the school can do this. We have talent here. You've just got to build it. And after those 4 years, that's when they hired Lance Tucker, and I came up with him. Me and him met one of the first 2 times I met him, and we just hit it off. And he said, I think it was the second meeting we had. It wasn't even really a meeting. We were just sitting around talking. And he said, "You're coming up with me. You're coming to varsity with me." So, and I was excited just because I was at that point. I've been doing this for 4 years, kind of time to take the next step. And so I came up with him and helped him call the offense. And just, I could never thank him enough for how much I learned from him.
Wow.
And that's, that's at the point too where That was in 2019. So we've been a school district for 5 years. We started, less kids were leaving to go to privates or Arlington or wherever, and so we were getting our kids here, and they were going through our program. And that's that first year we won our way to the playoffs. Had a winning record for the first time, and I used to know this. It'd been close to a decade, so maybe a little bit over. And then the second year we went to semifinals of state for only the second time in school history.
Wow, that's impressive. Wow. Well, that's pretty cool. So let me ask you this. So in your transition from Arlington to Bartlett, as you started to see both sides of the yard on two different teams, what was something that you noticed? It just in the Arlington type and the Bartlett type. Was there anything that you noticed?
No, there were a lot alike. In Arlington, the only difference for me, I wasn't in the school.
Okay, yeah, because you were on the
so,
restaurant, right?
sorry. I was not in the school building. So, a lot of the players, I didn't know as well as I know our kids now, and it's been the day with. And I had a great relationship with them. We had some good teams when I was doing that middle school out. For 3 years, I coached Hunter Goodman, the starting catcher for the Rockies.
Right,
Tate Colwick, who went to Vandy. We got to coach him for 3 years, and they were a lot of fun. But I knew in the first 2 months here, being in the school building, getting to know the kids, that this was first off the job I wanted, and that part was different. Getting to be around them and making a connection with them, and getting to know them more as people than just, hey, I'll see you at practice for 2 hours and then not seeing them again until the next time we practice.
So it's that longevity, just being with them and the time that you're with them.
Yeah.
Wow. Interesting. Okay.
And I think that was the biggest part of our turnaround here. When we hired Lance, I kind of changed as a coach. I grew up kind of, in the 80s and 90s playing, and most of my coaches just yelled at me all the time. That was the way that everybody motivated back then. Water was a punishment, like water's for the weak and all that. And one of the big things I learned from him when he got hired, and it changed the way I coached, that he brought way more positivity to it. And I think that was one of the big things that changed. And look, I worked for two great coaches before him too. Tim Haney, longtime coach at Houston. Jeff McFerrin, been several places. He's down in Mississippi now, but just super smart football guys. But like with Haney, I was doing freshman the whole time. With McFerrin, I had freshmen, so I wasn't even as close to them. But with Lance, he was more positive than I'd ever seen a football coach, constantly.
Wow.
And it kind of, like, I remember one of the first meetings he came in and said, I'm going to yell at the kids. He said, I'll yell at them. He said, you take your position groups, you pick them up, you pat them on the butt, you praise them. I'll get on to them, but make them love you. And that was the first time I really heard that. And I've kind of stuck with that since that day, and it changed kind of the way I coached. And these Bartlett kids kind of fed off of it, just coming from a point where, 10 years ago, when people heard Bartlett football, it's just whatever, they got a team, who cares? And now, we're usually in the talk for, one of the best teams in the county, and been to the Final Four twice in the last 4 years. So
that's impressive.
I think it has a lot to do with just kind of the way we've changed.
Maybe even culture and what you guys are establishing. I think that's interesting. So before we jump into our next section, I want to talk about this right here. I love how the fact that, I know even for me, when I'm brought along and I'm working in tandem with somebody that I respect or can work with. You mentioned Coach Lance. Any other mentors that you might want to mention as far as mentoring you to be a bigger, better, bolder coach for Bartlett?
I've taken a little bit from everybody I've ever worked for. Going back to Chris Wiley and Arlington, and like I said, Jeff McFerrin, Tim Haney, just guys that have had so much success throughout their careers as head coaches. I've learned so much from all of them. But honestly, one of my biggest influences was Phil Clark. One of my favorite humans on earth. If you walked into my house right now, there's a picture of him and my little girl who's 10 now, and she was, 9 months old. And he was and I never coached with him, but I got to work with him on a daily basis here. And usually it was just talking about anything. Even when first year I was head freshman coach, I would pick his brain about, how to deal with this problem or what should I do here or this and that. I learned so much from him. He was such a just great person, and I mean you could tell that when he passed away, how just the outpouring of people that made comments online or showed up to the funeral, or the visitation. He was, I tell people all the time, he's one of my favorite people on earth. He really was. And so if I had to say around here who was one of my biggest, just mentors, it'd be him. It really would. It's crazy because he didn't coach football. He could, I'm sure he could have. He could have probably coached anything. But he was always willing to listen and help me in any way he could. Shoot, the year he retired, if I left here like on a Friday on a game day, we could leave for an hour or so and then come back. I'd usually go pull up in his yard or his driveway and go sit there and just talk to him. When we built this building, and I think we moved into this new athletic building in almost the end of 2020, that COVID year. He put his office down here, and it was all. I couldn't wait to get done with class to come down here. If my kids went to lunch, I was down here just listening to stories or whatever it was. So.
Wow, yeah, no, Phil touched a lot of folks. So,
yeah.
What a guy. So, all right, head coach, new direction. What do you, as far as that is concerned, is getting that new head coaching job just over the summer, right?
I think it was like April 24th.
So in April, is it as of right now? You've got more track in front of you, but as of right now, is it all that you expected it to be?
Oh yeah. The first month was wild. I mean, I kept telling people, I said, I always dreamed of being a head coach. I just, kind of hoped I'd have got hired in February. Anyway, there was just so much right there at the end of school. From getting clothes ordered for the kids to how are we going to schedule summer? What are we going to do here? It was like anybody that spoke to me had a question.
Right.
And I was like, I got to start figuring out answers for these things. But I've got old coaches I can lean on. But I'm still excited as the first day I got the job. I truly am. And I'm 44 years old and I have my dream job, and I can honestly say that. I get to the administration, the board, everybody around here is great, and it's home. And I got to be a big part of the rebuilding, and now I just got to try not to mess it up.
Well, no, I can see it in you, and I know we're happy for you.
No, I appreciate it.
Because I've got even I've got an up and coming son, and we're going to be looking to you here very soon for even my son. So let me ask you this: as far as your direction, walk us through. What was it like getting the news that you're the head coach? Obviously probably a very surreal type of thing, but walk us through, you just mentioned it about having to, what am I going to do? How am I going to do this? Tell us what's it like to be the Bartlett High School coach right now over the summer, not in between seasons, if you will.
It was, obviously it was exciting. I had no idea what was going to happen. Last time it came open 2 years ago, I applied for it. And thought I might have a shot, but I knew I'd never been a head coach before, and we were coming off the second semifinal in 3 years. I mean, it was a big job, and so they hired Coach Smith that just left to go to Gosnell, and I was excited to work with him. Heard a lot about him, and I learned a ton from him. But I had no idea that he was thinking about leaving. I don't think that anybody did, and which. He found a place, I talked about coming home to coach. He's going back to where he's from. So I wish you nothing but the best. But so it just kind of just happened. He went in and told them his plans that he was resigning and moving. And about an hour later, I got brought down to the office. And honestly, I thought I was in trouble. Because I was like, what did I do? They just came and got me out of my room and went down there with the AD, the district AD, and the principal. And they said that this was happening. And even as they're saying this is happening, I'm assuming, okay, so when the interviews start
Yeah.
and all that. And because when Coach Clark was there, I wasn't in any of the interviews, but Coach Clark would always tell me what was going on, who they're looking at, who they talked to. So I kind of thought that was where this was going. They were asking, me to help. And they were like, we want to offer you the job. And I was like, okay, absolutely. And that was it. And they were like, sure. I said, absolutely. And I walked out to the parking lot. They asked me not to tell anybody for like 24 hours. But I walked out the parking lot and called my wife. And I can't believe she kept quiet for 24 hours. But and then I called Lance Tucker. It was my next call. Then Mr. Abraham came down. We were able to tell the coaches and everything like that. And everybody seemed, my first thought was, is everybody else going to be as excited as I am? That just runs through your head. And everybody really seemed to be. They really did. I was, like I said, I've been around this place since 2014, grew up here, and there's so many people in this school that there's people that taught me, but that went to school here, that work over the board, that went to school here. So I know a lot of people. My wife always jokes I can't go to Kroger without, it takes me an extra 15 minutes because I stop to talk to everybody.
Like the town mayor.
Yeah, Bartlett's still a small town. I know it's not, but when I graduated, it was only like 25,000 people. Now it's like 60. But I know a lot of people, and the outpouring of congratulations and the calls and the text, I was amazed. I kept telling people, I said, I'm not even exaggerating. I mean, it was insane how many people called. They called my wife and or text me or send me Facebook messages or Twitter messages. And the only thing I kept thinking was, I hope these people are still excited in November. I really do. But then kind of after a couple of days, I think that was on a Thursday that Mr. Abraham told me. We came down and met with the coaches. And so everybody was pretty much, I think everybody stayed. The assistant coaches, Coach Smith took Alan across with him. And then everybody else stayed. So then it became, all right, newness is off 2 days later. I think that next Monday, it's like, all right, we got to hire guys. We got to finish out the staff because we'd already lost our DC from last year. He moved to Lee County, Georgia, taking a job down there. So we were already kind of short staffed to begin with. So now it's like, we got to get started. And just got to work and just trying to, do everything that I thought was right, trying to keep people excited. And that's kind of been the biggest thing through this summer is just, I want to keep that momentum from the school, from the community, keep it going. I don't want it to die down because the kids can feel it. The kids knew in school that, all right, people are excited about this. And we've got a great group of seniors this year. And I think some of them were even, all they kept hearing from December to spring was how many seniors we lost last year. We lost some good. I mean, we had two of them go to the SEC.
Wow.
We got Vandy, linebacker Austin Howard going to Vandy. We got Jerron Johnson going to Mississippi State, play running back. So there's like 36 of them total. That's a huge senior class. And so I think those guys had heard a bunch about it, and that's all they were hearing. Nobody was talking about, hey, what are you going to do your senior year? And a lot of those seniors had played. They were sophomores on our last semifinal team, and I think there was 6 or 7 that started as sophomores on the semifinal team. So it was a really good group. But this group that's here now, this senior group, we got some dudes, but they don't have as much experience coming into their senior year as a lot of guys do, because they were behind some really good players. And so I think it's kind of a long drawn out answer. Sorry, but they were starting to just hear that. Oh, well, it's maybe a rebuilding year and things like that. So I think, and the fact that there was just, and I'm not saying it was just me, but a new coach, and there was excitement, or, just some kind of change. And I'm not saying because Coach Smith left or I got hired or anything like that, but it was just a different narrative than, hey, it's going to be a rebuilding year. So I think that kind of got them excited, and my goal was to keep them excited. I think we had a week of working out, and then we went out to spring practice, and it was we had just hired a new DC before Coach Smith left, from Covington, Johnny Katrosh. So I kind of got with him, and I was like, it was a weird spot to be in. Like, do we go out for spring practice? There's only 2 weeks left of school. We're trying to throw everything together. I don't know. We got enough coaches, but he had never seen him hit. He'd been here for a month and only seen him work out. Like, he had an idea. We can tell him, but this guy's going to be calling the defense. He needed to know who at least be aggressive.
Right.
And so I went to the senior class, and they were excited to have a spring practice. I said, we're going to have spring practice. And we just tried to make that as exciting as possible. And it carried over to the summer. They have been the best group this summer. They're guys stepping up, being leaders that I wasn't sure they could do it. And they're doing it. And they're not worried about what we lost. They want to play. They're ready to play with a chip on their shoulder and show everybody that we don't have to rebuild. We've just got to reload. We got the guys here. So.
Wow. So, Coach, let me ask you this real quick, and I've got some other questions based off of what you just said, but I do want to ask about this because you did mention that Bartlett is 6A. So, for those that don't know what a 6A school is, talk about how big does your school have to be in a 6A program?
I believe right now the number is 1,500.
Okay.
If you're 1,501 students, you are 6A. I think that it's either 15 or 16, but it's right there. And it drops to 5A, and then every couple of hundred it drops down,
Gotcha.
all the way to 1A. And that's just public schools. The private schools have three classifications, 1A, 2A, and 3A for them. But we are at the higher end of the 6A. I think we're either second or third biggest school in the state right now. We were last year, I think 2,700. 2,800, something like that. And we've only got 10 through 12 on this campus. The freshmen over at the Freshman Academy, and they're usually around 700 kids over there. So on this campus, we're at 2,000, 2,100.
Wow. Okay. And so with Bartlett, how it's set up, we have four middle schools that are feeding into that ninth grade academy. So you have do you have a pretty good stock just from the middle school class, or what does that look like as far as, do you have people from around the county that are saying, hey, Coach, I want to come play for you because I see a spark in you and I want this?
We, since about 19, every year we have kids that, parents will email or call, we're moving to Bartlett, or, do y'all have transfers or anything like that? And so usually at the high school level, we don't have transfers just because of the sheer number in here. But a lot of them, if they can transfer to middle school, they'll be able to stay in. But we have 3 middle schools. We only have 1 middle school team though. So we bring them all together, and we tried it every which way. When I first got here, we tried to have an athlete team, a Bartlett team, and an Elmer Park team, which was really good, but the teams weren't huge. And the hardest thing was finding a coaching staff for 3 middle school teams.
Sure.
Because most of the time with middle school coaches, you're finding guys that just just love football and want to coach it. And so, there's not a lot of guys that want to go teach in middle school and then coach middle school. They, if they had their choice, they might be doing it in high school. But we've got a guy right now, Renzo Jackson. He's a gym teacher at Elmer Park, and he's over our middle school program. And he's got 5 or 6 guys that help him, and they do a really, really good job. And he's pretty much built it. I think we hired him in 2020 or 2021, I think. So he's been, 3 or 4 years, and he's done a great job. But, a lot of towns like Arlington, when they do the middle schools, it can be like a true feeder program because they got 1 middle school. It's a little bit easier for them. Us with 3 being spread out, it's like you have to find just the best way to get them out and playing football. Like that's what you're concerned about. They use our terminology. They do a lot of the stuff we do on offense, kind of on a smaller scale, I guess. But I've met with Coach Jackson several times this summer, just going over how we call certain plays and things like that. And he's done a really good job building it up. He's got, we've talked several times about, we just had a kid move in from here, already getting them in there. And to answer your question, we have all the time kids trying to, I think I've had 4 or 5 this summer that have moved into Bartlett, and we've got them out. So it's definitely a destination now. When I first got here, people left. Kids went to private schools, or they may go, depending on sport, they may go to Arlington or Houston or somewhere, another public school. But now it's stay. And I think just having our own school system did a lot of that, especially the private schools. Having nice facilities like this. I mean, when I first got here, it was still the same stuff I was using, back in the 1900s. So we've come a long way, and I think the people around here now have, we're starting to get back that sense of community pride. Where I live in Bartlett, I'm gonna go play at Bartlett. That's where I want to go. So
that's impressive, and that's awesome. And yes, I definitely sense that pride because I mean, my youngest children have been in Bartlett schools, and we will remain in Bartlett schools. So moving on real quick to you've talked about the team dynamics a little bit and what you've seen as far as the direction that you want to go. Very, very appreciative for that. What about support? You're very optimistic about administrative support, the admins out here. What about you guys have a touchdown club, right? Is that a booster club, or
it's just another name for our booster club, Bartlett Touchdown Club? They are the best group of people you'll ever meet in your life. The president of it's her second year's president, and her son actually graduated in, let me get this right, he would have graduated in 23.
Wow, talk about some loyalty.
She had a daughter that was a cheerleader last year, and then she's got a younger daughter that is at Alturia. That's part of our youth cheer, but she just loves Bartlett, and I'm thankful for it because she works so hard. And then we've got a couple of players' parents that are on the board. 2 of our linemen, their moms, Vanessa Pirtle, Tanya Pirtle, and then one of our defensive players, Jabari Robinson. His mother's on the board too, and they do. We had a fundraiser Friday night at that like sports bar right there at Lakeland, Owner's Box.
Oh, the Owner's Box, yeah.
And honestly, we had to do it out there. We don't really have anywhere in Bartlett to do it. And so, because I was kind of like, don't you think we should do this in Bartlett? And they said, where? So there wasn't really anywhere to do it. But so we went out there, and it was packed for 5 hours. It was one of those things where we got 10% of their sales, like food sales. And it was packed. I didn't sit down and eat. I just walked around and talked to everybody. Every time anybody listened to me, I talked to them. But they stood up there at the door and sold apparel. Just Bartlett apparel from. I got there at 5:15. They were already set up. So 5:15 to 10:30.
Wow.
Just that group, and they worked so hard. Yesterday, it's funny you guys said today, because yesterday they had all the coaches over at one of their houses for a shrimp boil. Wow. Didn't have to do that. Their Sunday, their day off. They don't have to worry about this stuff, but they just. And it was great. All of us coaches know each other, but we have, a couple of guys have been around a year or two. We have our new defensive coordinator. We have our new quarterback coach. And it was just, honestly, the best part about it was our wives all got to meet,
That's awesome.
So we all brought our kids. They had, an inflatable water slide. It was a lot of fun. And it was something they didn't have to do, but they did it just to help us any way they can, whether it's raising money. I got it right before we sat down for this. Vanessa texted me if I needed laundry detergent for the jersey. So they are the biggest help I'll ever have, and I probably don't thank them enough. I try to, but they do it all for free, and they do it all just out of the goodness of their hearts, and and to make sure these boys don't want for anything, and that this program can be the best it can. I don't see there's any way we can have the program we have and do the things we do, and whether it's going on a road game. We have a road game in Nashville, and when we go, they will have them breakfast before we leave the school. We will stop. They will have them lunch. They will have them a snack before the game. They will have them food after the game. They will do all that, and I'll just think it magically happened.
Wow.
And the boys will, but they put in so many just hours that they're probably, I know they're not thanked for enough, but they do a great job.
Well, it sounds like you.
I'm sitting here thinking, I hope I didn't leave somebody's name. I apologize if I did.
Well, it sounds like it really and truly does sound like that you have got a strong community around this program, and I think that's worthy of a compliment in and of itself. So let me ask you this: as far as we've talked about the expectation of coming in as a high school coach, and expecting whether or not there's all that you expected it to be. We're about to get started with school. School's coming in session. What, this week? Next week?
Thursday.
Thursday of this week.
We're doing this on a Monday, so Thursday.
Yeah.
I always want to say something like that. I watch podcasts. I'm like, we're recording this.
No, you're good. So Thursday, school start back. What practices? Summer practices coming on right now. We Bolton High School just had a detrimental loss with heat related illness. When you're out there on the field, summertime, heat, things of that nature, what are you looking for out of your players when you're in this type of an environment, the heat related issues?
One of the things we did, we went as early as we possibly could. And that's something I've always liked doing, is just morning summer practices. Obviously because of the heat, but a lot of guys just work, so it gets them out of here, about 10 in the morning. But the heat is, and this summer it has been. This June was hotter than June's usually not that bad. It was ridiculous, but we try to get them in here in the morning. This week we started because of in-service. We're going later. We're getting them here at 5:30. We're going to work out, maybe watch a film, and then kind of when we can, we'll go out. But one of the things we have that I'm so thankful for is we have 2 Campbell's Clinic trainers. Thaddeus Avery, Kelly Howard. Thad's been here. He'll kill me if I get this wrong, but I think it's 08. He's been here longer than any of the coaches have. And he is kind of like the guy over at Campbell's Clinic that places all the trainers. So he's kind of like the top dog. We got it. And we've had him close to 20 years now. And Kelly actually went to school here. She graduated 2011, 12, something like that. But so she's back. She's been here for 3 or 4 years. And they are awesome. Wow. They can tell me anything about it. I just say, okay, well, that's what they said. Well, whether it's, I'm not fighting them on a temperature. I'm not fighting them on if somebody's hurt. That's their job, and I'm going to trust them. And they're always looking out for the best interests of those players out there. And I let them do their job. And I know not every school is blessed enough, doesn't always have trainers. Most of them have them at a game, but not every day at practice. And that's just, it's one of the things that, sometimes I probably don't think about or take it for granted, but I'm so thankful that we do have them.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, that's as you mentioned Thaddeus. I think Thaddeus is even going to the softball games that I've seen him around there.
Yeah, as well. Usually he's running back and forth from baseball and softball. They work more hours than anybody.
Wow.
Especially the spring with soccer and boys and girls lacrosse, softball, baseball. I mean, basketball season's finishing up. Girls basketball's finishing up. They put in some hours.
Wow, that's impressive. So we talked about the trainers. We talked about a little bit of the practice segment. Let's just keep it on the practice focus real quick. So when you look at your 10th graders that are now juniors and your 11th graders that are now seniors, leaders out there on the field, even at practice, what are you seeing as far as leadership, and do you have any special call outs on that leadership?
There's so many of them, and it's one of the things. So when I first got the job, one of the first team meetings I had, I told the guys, this is something I've always believed. I told the guys, this is their team. That coaches, can yell and try to motivate and try to lead, but it means so much more when it's coming from a player, a teammate. There's an old quote: "Good teams have the coaches lead, great teams the players lead." And so I started preaching that from day one, that this is your team. You have to hold each other accountable. But before that, you got to hold yourself accountable. You can't go tell somebody else to do something if you're the, one during drills, or, or working out, that waits till the coach turns his back and then you stop, or, you won't even stretch all the way, or you don't, jogging on and off the field, things like that. And I mean, there's a handful every day that step up, and a few of them, we had some at the beginning that just thought, well, I'm just supposed to yell, and we've gone over that. Like, you can be, be encouraging, pat them on the butt. Somebody messes up, just pick them up, try to talk to them about, how they can be better, or what they need to do, or what they need to look at. And this whole senior class, there's a bunch of juniors. I mean, we've got even some sophomores are starting to figure it out. So that's one of the reasons I'm really, really excited. I mean, pretty much so. I don't want to start calling out names because I'll forget somebody. That senior class has been just a lot of them have been very vocal, and in the right way, not just screaming and yelling and making the other kids, roll their eyes in the back of their head, think, why is this kid yelling again? But they've done it the right way, and then just leading by example. A lot more kids are probably comfortable leading by example instead of saying something. You don't want to think anybody thinks you're stupid, or making fun of me, but they do everything the right way. So that's what I'm really excited about. I've been preaching it, so hopefully it's going to pay off in 2 weeks when we get out there on the field.
I think it will. So, with that being said, I can hear it in your voice. I can hear it. I can see just see it right here talking to you. First game starting up. This is coming August or September or August.
August 22nd.
August 22nd is first game, folks. So come out and see your Bartlett Panthers. But let me ask you this: with that roster that you've got, or that schedule you've got, I should say, any particular teams that you're really looking forward to as head coach? Say, you know what? I've been waiting to play you as a head coach, and here we go.
I don't know all of them. The last 4 years, we've been in an 8-team region where it's all the big schools around here. Us, Houston, Cuyahoga, Whitehaven, Germantown. This year, they split it up. So we're only in a 5-team region. It's us, Cuyahoga, Cordova, Arlington, and Houston. But even though, and so the other region is Whitehaven, Germantown, White Station, and Southwind moved up to 6A. Okay. So my first thought when I took the job was, okay, we're region's a little bit better. It's only top 4 make it, and I mean that region we were playing in, that's like the old school SEC West when everybody was really really good. I mean, you think Whitehaven, and when you think Whitehaven, they were for years, they were the only West Tennessee team that could go up there and compete with the Oaklands or the Maryvilles. And they haven't made the playoffs in 3 years. That's how tough that region's been. My first thought was, we're in a little small region, starting out, this may be good. But we still have Germantown and Whitehaven on the schedule, so we're still playing them. But there's not really one that stands out. I mean, everyone I look at, I've been around here coaching for a long time. So, there's nothing, personal really about any of them. Like, I can remember when I first came over here, I loved the Arlington game, which I still like, because it's all our kids know each other. Most of them grew up playing youth sports together. So that one's fun. But I know I've got friends on most of the coaching staffs around here. So even sometimes, right before we go, get our kids to, try to beat each other to death, we get to see each other and talk, and, it's fun knowing so many people in this profession, just because, you got a mutual respect for each other, and especially the ones that, do things right way, and they work their kids, and they're out there for the kids. And I think most of the guys around here are. But so I'll say the old cliche answer. I'm just looking at 1 week at a time, or whatever it is. But I don't know. I don't know if you feel like this your first year as head coach, or just every year, but I'm just ready for the MUS game. I'm just ready to get them out there and see what we got. And because every week through the summer, I felt like we've gotten better. And that, it's like I come all that feeling like we're going to be okay. We're going to be good. We got some guys, and I truly feel that way. We've had, like I told you, some guys step up, but I mean, and we've got some depth around the field. So we've got some 10th graders that are going to be good. We've got a lot of 11th graders that played some last year's 10th graders, and this senior class is the one I'm really excited for.
Well, we're excited for you. Well, Coach, we appreciate your time for today.
Well, I appreciate you.
We certainly appreciate it, and making the time, because we know that you're
Absolutely.
about to start school, and you've got a lot of things on your plate. We've enjoyed the conversation. I hope you got a little something out of it. I know we did. I know I've learned something. Coach, we wish you nothing but success.
I appreciate it.
And for the listeners that are out there, be mindful. Coach Bowden indicated that first game is August 22nd.
We've got a scrimmage this week, the 8th, against Covington here. Then we're hosting Jamboree next Friday here, the 15th.
So already busy.
Yeah, and then we open up here with MUS, and doesn't get any easier. Then we go to Germantown. Then we host Melrose. So we're gonna come right out of the gate. So
well, hey, that's the only way you learn. You just got to jump right on in. And so again, much appreciated, Coach. Definitely appreciate you. Give us suggestions. Again, the purpose of Seams and Downs is to highlight coaches, highlight players, and everything in between. That way we're capturing that story and really focused on the stories of those that are out here doing this thing. So thanks again, Coach.
I appreciate it.
Appreciate you. All righty.